Welcome into this week's edition of Recruiting Breakdown. My name is Gerry Hamilton, joined as always by CJ Vogel. CJ, here we go. Last big recruiting event for Texas Longhorns before the 2024 season begins. The dead period ends Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So at 12:01, face-to-face contact can happen. And if any of those recruiters go for 12:01, they're really on their game. Maybe somebody arrives on the campus at 12:01 or something, and somebody puts out a video. That would be crazy. But what we're going to talk about today is that visitors list coming up for Thursday to Texas Pool Party. They'll have a couple of straggler type visitors in that can't make it on Thursday, maybe visit on a Friday or a Saturday. So we're going to kind of run down that. And then we're going to talk about also decisions coming up. What does these decision dates look like for Texas? Who's left on this board in the 2025 class? Before we get going with the pool party visitors list and a look at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the top guys there, I want to take a second for Mark Saunders, the sponsor of the Recruiting Breakdown. Thank you, as always, to Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one singular place that protects all of it? Here's some great news. Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you'll need to help keep tabs on protection for all your stuff, all of it, everything from your home, car and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and even that ATV if you got one. Call Texas All-State Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. Again, do what so many other On Texas football family members have done in the last year. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders today, 512-218-8571. With over 35 years of experience, who else would you want to call? The most experienced guy. That's Mark Saunders. All right, CJ. Big visit, not numbers. In terms of numbers, this isn't like a junior day with 75 kids on hand, but there's some key visitors coming in on Thursday. We'll lead off with Jonah Williams, the legitimate, we say two-sport star a lot, but legitimate two-sport star, one of the best in the country out of Galveston Ball.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one that I don't think many Texas fans expected to see Texas circle back on, or at least see this type of get to campus success with Jonah Williams, right? It felt like over the summer things were trending away from from Texas with Jonah Williams. Obviously, to get him back on campus, that's very important for the Longhorns, especially now that you can consider Texas baseball to be back in the consideration for Jonah Williams. Of course, you mentioned being a two-sport star, Gerry. He absolutely is that. The conversation with Jonah and some folks in the baseball world is, listen, he could be a top 5 round pick next year in the 2025 MLB draft. The question is, and this is what MLB teams will have to consider if they, were to take him, is would he sign? And I think that's going to be the big question for his MLB draft stock, because I do think the talent matches that of what you see going into that level of the draft in the MLB. But obviously the concerns of whether or not he will sign and go to the MLB right away, that's a concern that might tank the stock a little bit, then leading him into the world of college football and baseball there. So that's why Texas is continuing to pursue, because, of course, he is a very talented football player as well. He's got 5 stars next to his name, Gerry. Also, it does feel like it's going to be Texas and Oregon. Right now, I think A&M still in the mix a little bit. Maybe not in the best position as I thought they were going to be earlier this summer as well. But right now, I do think things are trending in the positive direction, and Jim Schlossnagle is a big part of this.
Yeah, so I think we'll see what happens there. LSU also continues to try with Jonah Williams. He'll be on campus with a couple of family members like he was in April. The key there, too, is in speaking with a family member on Saturday, not only is he visiting Texas, and we're not saying he's a Texas lean, because he did not make an official visit to Texas, and he made official visits to Oregon, A&M, LSU, and USC, okay? We want to be clear on that. But he may make a decision before his football season begins. It could go into the fall too, but it's on the table. I think everything's on the table with this recruitment. And remember this about this recruitment as well. In January, people were putting in picks for Oklahoma. Those have since been deleted. In March, April, people were putting in picks for A&M. Those have since been deleted. Amazing how our business can be. Then there are picks for Oregon in June. I don't think they've been deleted yet, but I think people have their finger on the button. So let's see what happens here with this recruitment. It'll be interesting to see. Michael Terry is another name. That
real quick, Gerry, they're really interesting with Jonah Williams and some of the, commitments that have gone Oregon's way in the past or have not. He's been pretty vocal on Twitter regarding NIL's not going to be a big factor for him. And then when recruits did not end up at Oregon, he also made a comment that, hey, unlimited NIL, where's that at? So it's worth monitoring with Oregon in that regard as well with Jonah Williams. I just wanted to drop that in there because it was pretty interesting to see, the commentary from his side there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So joining in amongst the 2025 targets, joining Jonah Williams in Austin Thursday is scheduled to be Michael Terry III out of Alamo Heights in San Antonio. Another guy, depending on what you look at in the recruiting industry, could be labeled a 5-star prospect or 4-star plus, as I call it, either one of those guys. Michael Terry, 6'2 3/4, about 215, 218 pounds. Obviously plays multiple sports in high school. Again, looks like Texas or Oregon here, and I think Texas is in a pretty good spot in this one headed into the Thursday visit. Michael Terry, again, is a guy that has gone from, I might make a decision in December at the Adidas All-America game, maybe to November, maybe to September. Now it could be August. I mean, we're July 23rd as we tape this, okay? School starts August 8th, 10th, around there. Practices are beginning, depending on if you had spring practice or not, right around that time. So a decision could be coming sooner than later for Michael Terry. My question is, does he visit anywhere else after Texas this weekend? He's scheduled to be in Austin Thursday. We'll see on that. But Michael Terry, another one. I mean, look, Texas fans love it and hate it, but the recruiting battles with Texas and Oregon are more in this cycle. I think Michael Terry is a better shot for Texas right now than Jonah Williams, but we'll see what happens. I just say that because Jonah hadn't made an official visit to Texas, but he does still have one left in the fall. But with Michael Terry, CJ, it's really going to come down to this. I think Texas and Texas A&M, by the way, have said, we'll give you a shot at wide receiver. It doesn't work out, we'll figure it out after that. I think that's probably the direction you have to head in this recruitment if you want to win it if you're Texas. Similar to Texas telling Cade Phillips, we'll give you a shot at corner. After that, it's up to you to stick. After that, we'll figure it out, that defensive back. So with Michael Terry, I think, he wants to be an offensive player, so it's going to come down to how comfortable he feels with that in regard to Texas.
Yeah, I think it's also, you mentioned, Cade Phillips, you mentioned probably Jonah Williams in that same regard, right? The conversation early with Texas was linebacker. And of course, he kind of came out as, hey, that's not necessarily where I want to be. I don't want to play in the box. I know that I probably have a frame that's best suited for a linebacker, but put me back deep. Let me range with my speed and play safety. I think you see that right now with Michael Terry as well, right? Wide receiver is where he wants to play, and he certainly has enough talent to do so at the next level. But does he fit what Steve Sarkisian's looking for there? Can he be a plus athlete at a different position like tight end or off-ball linebacker? We'll see. Of course, the pitch is come to Texas. We'll figure it out after that. And that's exactly what that has been the case for Michael Terry. And it's really interesting. Again, Gerry, you mentioned Texas and Oregon battling it out for a number of prospects that you normally don't see this type of recruiting rivalry inside the state of Texas. And now it's national as well when you consider what Texas was kind of toying around earlier with Dallas Wilson. But Oregon, again, it appears that dating back to the spring, it was going to be Texas A&M for Michael Terry, and then Nebraska made a run. And now it's going to be Oregon and Texas again coming down to it in August, I believe, is when you'll see some sort of decision from Michael Terry. But to your point, for the Longhorns to get that first visit after the dead period open up, after what was an all-hands-on approach from the coaching staff for his official visit in June, very good sign for the Longhorns here.
And look, Oregon adding Rashad Samples to Will Stein to go with the voices of Tosh Lupoy and Dan Lanning is a difference maker for Oregon in the state of Texas. There's no doubt. Now, they're not the only two 2025 prospects scheduled to be on campus. Quarterback commit KJ Lacey will be on campus. Tight end commit Nick Townsend will be on campus. There's a number of commitments that won't be on campus because it's a Thursday visit. Parents have to work, transportation. It can be an issue. Timing of that can be an issue. A lot of guys, Caleb Chester, the Coleman triplets, they've all said the next time they're in Austin will more than likely be for the season opener. So not a negative if Texas commitments aren't on campus for this event. It's just that some will get there and some can't because it's a Thursday and parents have to work. Some kids may have high school workouts or they may be finishing summer school. There's a lot of things that factor into this. One guy, 2025, that will be on campus, but it's not going to be Thursday. It looks like it's going to be Friday. They get into town Thursday is J.J. Hahn, the defensive tackle, the fast riser out of Rancho Santa Margarita Catholic High via Berlin, Germany. Texas offered June 4th when he made his rounds. He didn't visit Texas. He made his rounds to Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Ohio State. They all offered him. Then he got on a plane and flew to Berlin to see his family for a while. Now he's back in the States and making visits. So the news here that we can give you today, and you can also read more about this on ontexasfootball.com, is that J.J. Hahn, 6'4", 275, upside is really high. I don't care where he's ranked right now. Follow the offers. Follow when the offers were made. That tells you where this kid could be headed as a prospect. He'll be at Texas. He's flying in with a key person in his circle, flying in on Thursday. He may be at Texas at some point Thursday, more than likely Friday. Then they fly out and go to Oregon. So, again, this looks at Texas versus Oregon recruiting breakdown. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Then he's going to go to Oregon for a weekend. But here's the key. He's got an official visit scheduled September 7th through 9th at Georgia. That's news. I don't think that's out publicly. It may be. He's expected to finalize a September official visit to Texas on this visit. Georgia, Texas, Oregon seem to be the three teams that where this decision could come from, with Texas A&M and Nebraska, 4th and 5th. Pete Kwiatkowski was by the school in May. I believe Kenny Baker went after that. PK's recruited that school, has connections on that staff for a while. So PK got Texas in the door on this one. Everybody thinks it's Johnny Nance. It was actually PK. So we'll see where it goes. I think Georgia may be early on the team that beats. The only OV he has set up. Texas should get that official visit date locked in on this visit, and we'll see how long this recruitment plays out. He hasn't taken an official visit yet. I think he will take an official visit or two or three before announcing a decision. But if you're wondering, Texas fans that aren't as familiar with Hahn, level of prospect he is, Georgia has him scheduled for an official visit. They tried to get him in late June, but he couldn't do it from a timing perspective to get back to Berlin. So Georgia was trying to offer and maybe get that thing done early. That tells you how good people think his upside is. Texas going to get him on campus Thursday, try to get him in September. All right, CJ, let's transition to 2026 real quick. Impressive group of names in 2026. Outside of Diabell, the quarterback commitment, and Chris Stewart, the wide receiver commitment, who will be in, who's got your attention in 2026?
Yeah, it's a pair of wide receivers. It's Mike Brown out of Houston. It's Jordan Clay out of San Antonio. Jordan Clay was in the conversation with Zion Robinson out of the DFW area on the elite camp. Both of them were offered June 1st. But Jordan Clay really came away as one of the top guys that we were continuing to hear from out of that camp. So I was really intrigued to see Texas offer him immediately, and obviously to get that first visit again. He mentioned when I talked to him after that elite camp that, hey, it's only 45 minutes from where I'm at. I loved that. And, of course, with the way that he plays football, the frame that he's got around 6'1 and a half, 6'2", he can fly pretty well. So really impressive prospect. I was a big fan of his watching the tape again. I like him. Also, Jamarian Vincent, Jamarian Carlton, the two kids out of Waco, the Jamarian kids. Listen, big fan of both. Jamarian Carlton, big-time kid that Texas offered, again, that elite camp. Off the edge, coming in out of Temple. A big fan of his. Got to see him in the spring. He's got that get-off, Jerry, that you look at, right? He's kind of got that Zena Umeozulu starter kit build at the moment. I saw him this spring, his sophomore spring even. So plenty of room to grow in that body. He's already standing about 6'4 and a half, 6'5". Very long arms, gets off the ball very well. And then Jamarian Vincent as well. This was a guy that I've been put on for about 2 years now, Jerry. Before he even played a varsity snap, folks in Waco were texting me saying, that's the kid you need to watch out for.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Texas has been all over him. To get him back on campus, very important to kind of knock out the regional recruiting, as we've seen Texas do so well with Steve Sarkisian in this staff. Of course, we know that they can go out nationally and pull in the five-star guys from everywhere. To knock out the Waco, the San Antonios, the Austin areas, very important for me.
More talent in the Syntex area, including Austin down to San Antonio, than there's ever been, in my opinion. That's just the population growth in Austin, surrounding areas. By the way, if there's any new Texas recruiting staffers out there, separate these Jamarian name tags by a good amount on the table. Yeah. Jamarian Carlton, 6'4", 240. Jamarian Vincent, 6'1", 165. Don't get those things mixed up. That never goes well in recruiting. Make sure the right Jamarian has the right name tag. All right, other 2026s that have my full attention. John Turntine III will be at Texas for, the 5th time since they offered him. That's pretty good news if you're Kyle Flood. Those recruitments tend to go pretty well for you. Is expected to be on campus with a family member. Obviously, his dad, John Turntine, was a tremendous defensive lineman for Gary Patterson at TCU. John Turntine III, one of the top offensive line prospects in the country. Texas offered him in person at the Kansas State game last year, and he's been on campus a number of times. Javian Osborne, running back from Forney, I believe the top 2026 running back on the board for Texas right now. That's not a slide on Tredarian Ball, who's an Oregon link. Golly, what is this show? And then KJ Edwards and some other guys. But Javian Osborne, really talented back. He visited Tennessee, Georgia, some others late in the spring and in the summer. But he's a big-time guy as well. So that visitors list is really – it's not going to be big in bulk. It's going to be long on talent, though, because this is some of the best prospects in the state of Texas, some of the best prospects in the country. And when you get Diabell back, again, that's tons of buy-in by Diabell and his family. That's his 3rd visit since March. He lives in Plantation, Florida. Okay, that's big. And I know they have the means. The family has the means, obviously, right? But still, that's great buy-in from your future quarterback at Texas. All right, CJ, let's transition real quick to the recruiting, the key dates that are coming up for Texas, because
there's a lot of them.
And I know the fan base continues to ask, hey, what's going on with Khalid Lockett, Jamie French, Michael Fasusi, some of these top targets left that may not be on campus, that are not scheduled to be on campus Thursday or this weekend. As of right now, these things can change. I also want to say this real quick about 2025s and the possibility of being on campus Thursday. Just remember, Texas stays on their 1A list of guys. That is Josiah Sharma. That's Myron Charles. That's Zion Williams. Just go down the list. That'll be Dejon Lee in California, the corner. Some of those guys that have already visited, some of those guys that may not have officially visited. Texas doesn't walk away from these guys. They've remained in contact with these players. Multiple schools have been in contact with some of these players. The recruitment process doesn't end when they commit. Good chance some of those guys end up on Texas campus again. Could it be Thursday? We'll see. Could it be during the season? We'll see. But just look at Steve Sarkisian's past history, and we know that happens in recruiting. All right, CJ, Khalid Lockett, first decision, August 7th. Then known, August 7th. Michael Fasusi the 22nd. Jamie French the 30th. We're going to go through the known decisions, and we'll close out with the guys who don't have dates, but we think something's coming quick.
Yeah, listen, it's coming quick in August, right? Football is going to be back on the field on the 31st. And then obviously all focus goes towards the season, but Sarkisian and his staff going to be working for quite a few 5-stars, Gerry, out there remaining, a lot from the state of Texas to get into this 2025 class. Of course, Khalid Lockett's the first one to come off the board that we know of with those certain dates. So wanted to make that clear. Of course, it does feel like Texas has ramped up the heat. I received word earlier today that Texas A&M doesn't feel like they are in this race as much as they were during the official visit months as well. So that's also noteworthy when you consider the proximity to home. I know that he's considering Alabama, LSU, Florida State as well. But right now, Texas having that in-state edge there over A&M certainly helps their case as well. But moving forward,
let's make a point on this, CJ, real quick. And before we move on, when Decorian Moore committed to Oregon, Texas chances went way up with Khalid Lockett. There's a reason we were saying all 3 5-stars, ranked 5-stars, aren't likely going to end up at the same school. Right. Texas odds went up when Decorian Moore committed to Oregon. All right, sorry about that. Keep going. I just want to make that clear because we have thousands of people that tune into these, and all of them tune in at different times.
Yeah, well, we'll move to Michael Fasusi because that's the next one on the list, August 22nd. I know he put out August 21st, but as we talked about before before going live, Gerry, it is the 22nd. That's an interesting one to me. It feels like it's going to be a Red River rivalry shootout again, Texas and Oklahoma. I have it leaning slightly towards Oklahoma. There's a lot of confidence with the Sooners right now coming off of the official visits. It will be very interesting to see if he gets back to campus for a fall practice or two or wherever with either school beforehand, because I do think that final push, that final impression for Michael Fasusi will be very important. And then, of course, Jamie French. And Gerry, I'll kick it to you here because that Georgia visit is, ruffling some feathers, right? We've talked about Oregon. Well, Uga's going to have something to say here with Jamie French before it's all said and done. What's the latest there? And, is it something to get head over heels with at the moment?
Yeah, and by the way, Fasusi not scheduled to be in Austin Thursday. And as of Monday, Khalil Lockett wasn't either. That could change, but we'll see. I think Fasusi's got something going on within his family that day. These feathers are not currently ruffled on Jamie French. I'll say that. Hey, he's going to visit Georgia, though. I think that's still scheduled. I think Texas is in a good spot with Tennessee number 2. I don't think LSU's really the place. I don't think Miami. I think he might want to get out of state and do something different. That's been a theme in his recruitment. He's committed to Alabama before, right? So I think same thing that happened. We talked about the Corey and Moore. There's something that play with Jamie French. So those things cut both ways. But I think Chris Jackson's done a tremendous job with the circle, the family in that recruitment. And I think Jamie French sees a culture fit at Texas. We'll see what happens. Look, he's going to visit the top program in college football. So we're not going to sit up here and say, oh, lock Texas, August 30th. That's a month away. That's his mom's birthday, by the way. That's why he's announcing on the 30th. But I think Texas remains in a really good spot headed into this visit. And it would be a surprise, I think, if Georgia overtook a Texas in a short amount of time. But there's over a month till he decides. We're watching for Nathan Tillman. We've been on any day watch for him last couple of weeks. We're hearing a lot more Utah than Texas and TCU since the weekend. Interesting. Remember, we talked about this, CJ. He did not cancel the Utah official visit to come to Texas on the 7th through 9th. Texas got a midweek visit. Texas is over on midweek visits. If they can't get a kid to back off one of those weekend visits and get them in, they haven't won one of those. Not that they can't, but we're just going with what we have in front of us right now. Dejoun Lee went to Bama. Dorian Brew went to Oregon. Golly, there it is again. So Nathan Tillman Texas tried to get him in the 7th through 9th. He had loyalty to the schools that were recruiting him, did not back off that Utah date, did not back off a TCU official visit the 21st through 23rd. So Texas got him in midweek. That is something that could be in play when he announces his decision.
It will be interesting, of course, Aiden Anding as well. LSU, Texas. You mentioned Utah and Texas, with TCU kind of on the outskirts there for Nathan Tillman as well. So Texas trying to wrap up, of course, with that defensive back class. There could be other targets out there, senior evaluations, some guys that they might circle back on later as well. Gerry, I want to wrap it up with this. I know 2027 is a long ways away, but there is one guy that needs to be on radars right now. That's Kyron Haywood out of Denton Guyer, 2027 defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, was offered at the big man camp in early June. Texas seems to like him a good bit. You turn on the tape and you see why. Has that kind of Byron Murphy build. 6'1", 260 at the moment, has 3 years to grow into his body as well. Moves very, very well. Oh, and by the way, he trains with Byron Murphy. So that's something noteworthy as well, that pushing to Texas as well. They've talked about it in the past, but wanted to throw that out there. One final nugget. He just confirmed he'll be in Austin on Thursday. All
right, that's awesome news. Before I get to my final comment here as well, we each have one thing we want to say. I want to take a second again for Mark Saunders. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects all of it? All of it. Here's some great news. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders is the only insurance agent you'll need to help keep tabs on protection for all your stuff. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and even that ATV. Talk to Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. With over 35 years of experience, who else would you want to call? Mark Saunders, 512-218-8571. Last thing for me, a couple other guys. Aiden Anding visiting LSU this weekend, unofficial. I think he may decide before his senior season. A lot on the line for LSU with those conversations with Brian Kelly and Corey Raymond this weekend. Why'd you just offer me now? Kids know what's going on in recruiting. That's something that Corey Raymond, Brian Kelly are going to have to get over that hurdle. Bottom line with that. So it'll be interesting to see where Texas is at after this weekend. Madden for Ramo could happen in August, could happen in September. We don't know yet. Notre Dame still considered probably the favorite over Texas, but Texas is making this a recruiting battle. At the end, that's all you can ask for Texas. They got him in late when he was definitely headed to Notre Dame. DJ Sanders, we'll see. Texas A&M may have more confidence in Texas and Michigan right now. We'll see when he announces. It should be before his senior season. Nick Brooks is still late September. Texas continues to be the favorite over Georgia. Watch and see if guys start committing to Georgia on the offensive line. That would be a positive for Texas because Georgia, he's a top guy for Georgia. They want him. USC still trying as well there. So number of targets still out there for the Texas Longhorns. But again, good Thursday visitors list. It's not, they don't want 100 kids here. That's not what Texas is after. They want some key 25 guys on campus. A new guy, J.J. Hahn, from making his first ever visit to Texas on Friday. And then we'll see if they get any other committed guys maybe to pop in there on Thursday. But CJ Vogel and I'll be covering all of it for you at On Texas Football. Thank you for joining in this week's Recruiting Breakdown.